Hello, and welcome to this episode of Drop the Puck. Although this is our fourth ever episode of Puck Drop on YouTube, this will somewhat be a special episode, as Mr. Jacob Gorn will explain the rules of today's episode as we will rate every Devils player's performance of this season. Take the mic.
Yes, we're going to do it EA Sports NHL style. So 78 to 80 would be an average player. You'll have 15 seconds to state your reasoning for your overall rating. Let's just get started.
And one more thing I'd like to add, just for you all to know, there will be no counter arguments, as we all know where that will go.
So we're going to start with the traded players, and the first player that we have is Taylor Hall. And I am going to start out, and I'm going to give him an 87, and he was not
87. Okay, no comment. No.
He was not. Even though he was definitely worse this year than he has been the past two seasons, this was not his worst season as a Devil, and around November and December, he was much better.
I'm going to have to highly disagree. This season was a complete train wreck for Taylor Hall in New Jersey. His worst season in New Jersey came when he played 33 games because he got injured. Just based on this season, I'm going to have to give him an 82 because he took an extreme step back.
Okay. I'm going to give Taylor Hall a 85. And I'm going to give Taylor Hall an 85, not as a good 85, but as a disappointing 85. I think that he really did step down instead of step up, but that doesn't change the fact that I do think that
Ryan, who are you giving him such a high rating? I think
arguments, please.
Who are you and what have you done with Ryan?
All right.
Next player?
The next player is Blake Coleman, and I'm going to start out yet again, and I'm going to give Blake Coleman an 84.
I'm going to give him an 84 as well because he's a good offenseman. He's not a first-line talent. He has the potential to be a perennial 25 goal scorer.
I'm going to give Blake Coleman an 82. I think that he performed very, very well this season. He was a fun player to watch. I just don't really think he's as good as you guys say. That's all I just have to say.
I disagree. Let's move on.
All right, next player, Sami Vatanen.
I'll go first. So I think Sami Vatanen is a solid 84. And this is because I thought that Sami Vatanen was a very, very good player. He led the team through the downs of this season. And I would have to say, and I'm not even joking right now, he might have actually been aside maybe from Kyle Palmieri and Andy Green, maybe debatably Blackwood's right-hand man.
I highly disagree with that. I'm going to have to give him an 83, though, just one less, because honestly, he was our best defenseman this season, which is sad, but he was 83 caliber. He was okay. He's not top, but he's okay.
I'm going to give Andy Green an 80, just an 80, actually, because I think that Andy Green was a stand-up player. He was a good player to have. He's a good captain. He's respectable. He's a solid person. He's a great person to have on your team. I don't think he's a, performance master or like this amazing player that you want on your team, but I do think he is a very, very good captain, and I respect him as an all-around person, and he's a good Devil to have.
Yeah, I'm going to give an 80, but he's a solid defenseman on a bad team. And honestly, he played better when he was with the Devils than when he was with the Islanders.
So I'm also going to have to give Andy Green an 80 because he's average, which is a compliment because he's old as dirt. So playing average when you're that old is good. And he was a leader. He led the team through the dark ages. He's a leader. He's a captain. He's okay. So 80. Solid defensive defenseman.
Next player,
Wayne Simmons. I'm going to also have to give him an 80.
I'm just going to give Wayne Simmons an 80. I totally agree with Jacob. Maybe he's like a low 80, like barely deserves to be an 80, but I'm going to give Wayne Simmons an 80. He was a good player to have on the team. He was a good all-around person. I respect him.
Okay, so he's just average. He lost a lot of his talent. He's not that good anymore, so 79.
Mackenzie Blackwood is the next player I have.
I'll go first. I'm going to give Mackenzie Blackwood. He's an outstanding player. I love him. I'm so excited to see his future. But I'm going to give him, just for this season's performance, an 87. I think that personally, he was an all-star goalie. He was a good person to have on the team. You know, he was a really, really big step up from Corey Schneider. He made dark things in Jersey look bright.
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna have to agree with Ryan, 87. So a lot of the NHL starters are in the 86, 87, 88 range.
No, well, those are good NHL stars. Really
Based
good.
on his not a lot of experience, and based on his not a lot of experience just for this season and his not so great start,
Your
I'm gonna
time
have
is
to
up.
give
Next.
an 87. Sorry. Okay.
I'm giving Mackenzie Blackwood either like a high 85 or a low 86.
Oh, geez.
It
Okay.
might seem
No
low,
counter arguments.
but I mean, he did his bad start to the year brings
He
it
was
down,
the best goalie
and
in
his
January.
only average December and the few games he played in March.
I'm going to give you unlimited time, Jacob, to explain because Jordan was being very rude.
His poor start to the season definitely brings his grade down for me, and his only average December and the few games he played in March does bring his average down as well. I am definitely very optimistic about Mackenzie Blackwood, but
Sorry, my dog I don't know if you guys realize this, but my dog just opened the door. I've never seen that happen before. Oh my God, keep going.
I'm definitely very optimistic about Mackenzie Blackwood. But what I've learned with the Devils is you can't be too optimistic, so I'm being cautiously optimistic about Mackenzie Blackwood.
If he didn't have that bad start, he would have been like an 89 in my book. Let's move on.
All right.
No.
All right. Mirko Mueller, I'm going to give him a 79. I thought he definitely was, not a bad player this year. This has been his best season as a Devil by far, I think. And I especially at the end of the season, he had a really solid end to the year when he had to step up and play in a larger role.
That's it. You're done.
Time's
All
up.
right.
Time's up, Jacob.
Oh,
I'm
going to give him, I'm just going to give him a straight up 80.
Yep. I'm going to give him a 78. He's a role player. He's not a star. He's not a star in any sense of the word. He's an average, run-of-the-mill, role-playing defenseman.
Okay. PK Subban. I'm going to go first with this one. I'm giving him an 81 overall because he did have a pretty decent second half to the year.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna have to give him an 80 because he's trending more to the average. He's lost his luster over the past 2 seasons, but since we're ranking him on this season, definitely giving him an 80 because he's an offensive defenseman who hasn't really been producing, and he says he's one of the best, but he's not anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I'm just going to give him a 79. I think he's just about average. I think you guys are being a little bit nice about it.
Yeah,
totally
because he's
overrates
PK
himself.
Subban.
He totally overrates himself.
He does.
Just because Snoop Dogg likes him in NHL doesn't mean he's an all-star.
By the way, why is Snoop Dogg in NHL 20?
I don't know.
God knows. God knows.
Oh yeah, he's playable. You can play as him in ones.
I know.
Hey, what up, PK?
Next player is Will Butcher. I'm giving Will Butcher, I'll say 81. Solid offensive defenseman. In my opinion, very underrated.
I'm going to give Mirko Mueller.
Will Butcher, you mean?
I'm gonna also say he's kind of underrated. I'm gonna give him an 82.
You said Mirko Mueller. Will Butcher.
Yeah.
You
Will
said
Butcher.
Mirko Mueller.
Oh shoot! Why do I always mix those two up? I don't know
okay.
why.
You have 15 seconds. Explain.
He's been really solid, and he's been a big help. He's been a playmaker. Really, he's gotten a lot of assists, and he's really stepped up. He's been a role player.
Your time is over.
All right, Ryan. What will you give?
I have to agree with Jordan. I have to agree with 100% with Jordan. He said it straightforward.
All right, but next player is Jack Hughes. I'm giving him an 80.
Okay, I'm going to give Jack Hughes an 82. I think he was about one of the better average players, but he's got time to grow and a good, solid future, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a 77, and I know that sounds harsh, but let me
underrating him.
explain in 15 seconds. Okay, so basically, he has good hands and he's a good skater, but I want to see results on the ice. He was highly touted as like the next Sidney Crosby, but I want to see results. He didn't exactly help.
He was never
the
supposed to
team
be the
win
next
games.
Sidney Crosby.
No counter arguments, and 15 seconds are up.
Okay, well, next player is Miles Wood. I'm giving Miles Wood an 80. So I even gave Miles Wood an 80 because, you know, he is an average player, but he's a better of an average player. He brings speed, and he's one of the most aggressive players on the team, and he's been, throughout his career, a consistent 10 to 15 goal scorer.
I'm going to give him an 80 as well, Jacob. I'm going to change mine to an 80 because, and keyword because, he is actually exactly as you worded it, Jacob. Exactly as you worded it. He's the most mediocre but most needed player on your team.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with an 81 because he's kind of that average player. He's that role player that everyone wants because he's not a star, but he's consistent. Keyword consistency.
Yeah,
The best players are the most consistent players, and he is that. He brings speed and talent and enthusiasm
Time
to
is
any
over.
lineup.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I'm just gonna say one last thing about Miles Wood. I think he's the only player on the Devils this year to play on all four lines.
Are we almost at Kyle Palmieri, by the way? I'm so
He played
excited.
on the first.
Yeah, he played on the first line at the end of the year. But next player I have is Travis Zajac.
I'll go first. So I'm going to put Travis Zajac as a solid 81. I think Travis Zajac is a little bit over average. He's a fun player to watch. He's that good player you need. He's an excellent alternate captain. But I think that his times are coming to an end, but I respect him, and I'm going to miss him if he ever retires soon.
Jacob,
I
you
can
can
see
go.
that happening.
So Zajac is – I'm giving Zajac I'm going to give him an 80, but because Zajac is probably the best defensive forward on the Devils. He's a good mentor guy, and honestly, next year, if they can just have him on the fourth line as like a mentor type center,
Your
like
time
kind of
is
what Brian
over.
Boyle was, I'd be happy. So I'm giving him an 80.
Next.
Okay, I'm going to have to go with a 79 just based off this season. Like Jacob said, he's a mentor, and he provided plenty of leadership as an alternate captain. But his time is dwindling, and he's kind of on the decline. And this shortened season probably won't help with that either. So, 79.
Yeah, he turned 35 last week, so he's not getting any younger. Next player.
All right, next.
Damon Severson. Can I go first with this one? Because I'm a very big advocate for Damon Severson. I'm going to give him an 84.
That's a lot. But
that might sound kind of high, but honestly,
Severson
was the Devils' most after Green was gone, and even like while Green was here, he was one of the Devils' most consistent defensemen, defensively, and especially throughout the second half of the season, offensively as well.
So I think you're overrating him. I'm going to give him an 82. I think that he's a great player. He's over average, and I really, really like having him on the Devils, but I do think you're just like kind of, favoring him a little bit. Just my opinion. Go ahead, Jordan.
Normally, I would give him like an 83 because he's more of top of the line But my actual rating, for one simple reason, is going to be an 81. And do you want to know why? I attended a game where he scored on his own team in overtime for that anti-clutch aspect, 81. But otherwise, he's a solid producer. He's a player you need.
Can I say one thing about that own goal? Like what he was trying to do there is clear against the boards because he had a guy who was like back checking him.
Yes,
but he was trying to clear against the boards.
However, Jacob, shut up. I went to that game, so I'm biased, and shut up.
Anyway, next player, as Steve Cangelosi says it, Pavel Zacha.
I'll go first. I'm going to give Pavel Zacha.
It's like Pavel Zacha's boring cousin.
Zacha.
I'm going to give him an 80.
You're going to give him an 80? I'm going to give him, based off this year, I'm giving Pavel Zacha an 81. Pavel
Based
Zacha.
off of this, oh, okay.
Pavel Zacha is the definition of inconsistency. He'll be playing like a good top six forward in like for like a 5-game stretch, and then he'll be unnoticeable for the next 5 games. Like you'll barely realize he's on the team. But
Your time is up.
he did have the best year of his
Time is
career.
up.
You, Jordan,
Time.
your
La
time
la la la
is
la la la.
up.
I am going to
Two more
prevent you from
seconds.
talking.
2 more seconds.
No,
your time is up. You're no more better than us. Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to give him an 81. No, 80, based off of his inconsistency. He's a playmaker for sure, and he's a good he's a good team player, I suppose. But goal scoring department, nope, just nope.
But
Right on time. Next.
you didn't let me say the reason why I have him as an 81. I said
Because
he
you
was
didn't manage your
inconsistent.
time correctly. That's not my problem.
I
Gotta
said he was
manage your time. You
inconsistent.
talk like
I was gonna
this
say,
so slowly.
I need 2 more seconds to say something. I was gonna say,
Nope. La la la
but
la
he
la la
had
la la
sorry,
the
la.
but
best
that's
year
just not
offensively of his
fair.
career.
That's not fair, Jacob.
Don't talk. Don't
Alright,
even.
Yeah, just don't ruin the rules. You have
Okay,
what the
Ryan.
law calls the sovereign
Now,
citizen.
Ryan, you may talk
You
for
think the
15
rules don't
seconds.
apply to you.
You may talk for 15 seconds, Ryan.
Well, player.
But didn't you not rate
Yeah,
Pavel Zacha?
I did. I gave him an 80.
Okay,
oh,
next.
Okay.
Next.
Next player is my personal favorite player, Jesper Bratt. Why is he my favorite player? He's my favorite
Okay.
player because, first of all, he's one of the most underrated players in the entire league, in my opinion.
Wouldn't say so.
The way he skates, he's so sharp on his edges. He's an elite skater and an elite playmaker, and has so many moves up his belt. He's easily the best, has the best hands on the entire team, and he also has a really underrated shot. And I also just love Jesper. But I'm gonna rate him as an 84 or 85 for the season. 84, because he had a pretty bad start to the year. So I'm gonna give him an 84.
Okay.
Because
I'll go.
Okay.
No, Jordan, you can go.
I wasn't done.
Well,
All right. For this season, I'm gonna give him an 83 because he's a good top 6 forward, and he's pretty good. You know, he steps up and he produces. You know, except for last year. I mean, apart from his injury last year, he was pretty good. You know,
it's based off of this year, but no big deal. I'm going to give him an 83. I think he's a good player to have on the team. I respect him. I like him. I don't think he's the key Devils aspect, but he's definitely one of the better Devils.
Yep.
Next player is Nico Hischier. And
I'll go first. So for me, I'm going to give Nico Hischier a very, 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 very respectable 86. He's grown. He's got a great future ahead of him. He's finally shaping up to be what he deserves to be, and I hope it's the same story with Jack Hughes. Bad rookie year, but comes back. I'm really, really excited to see how he does next year. So 86.
I'm gonna have to give him an 85. He's a very good player, and he's an all-star, and he has a lot of potential, and he hasn't discovered that potential fully, but he's been very good this season. So 85.
One thing I noticed about Nico Hischier is he tends to have not as good starts to the season. Like, he didn't score a goal until his 7th NHL game. He had, 2 points in his first 7 or 8 games last season. And this season, he had 1 goal and was a -3 in his first 7 games when he signed that big extension. But after that, after he scored his first goal this season, a monkey was off his back, and he was fantastic all the way until late February. So if you talk to me at the trade deadline, I'd say 86. I'm going to bump him down to an 85. I'm going to agree with Jordan, 85.
Sounds good. All right, next.
He has a lot of potential. Okay, next.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Next player is Nikita Gusev, the Goose.
Okay, you know what? Here's the deal. Hold the roof, everybody. I'm going to give
Hold the
him.
roof. I'm holding the roof. The roof is on top of me. I'm
Here's
holding
my.
it.
I'm going to do my 15-second explanation starting now. So he's now going to be a 78. I thought he was a very, very good player, but I liked watching.
Fine.
You know he's second.
I
You know
will
he's.
go
You
with
know he
that.
has one less. You know he had one less point than Kyle Palmieri this season. He was second on the team in
Yeah,
scoring.
but he hasn't really, been a goal scorer, and he was advertised as not
He was
only an
never
assist,
advertised as a goal scorer.
machine, but he was advertised as a goal scorer when he came here, and he hasn't.
No,
really
he never.
But let
He
me-
never was.
All right,
Let me
all
give
right,
my
all right, all
rating.
right, all right.
Did you
Potato,
look at his
potato. Move on.
KHLs?
Move on. Move on. Raise the
Guys,
roof.
Did you look at his KHL stats last season? He had like 20 goals and 60 assists. He was never a goal scorer. He probably would have had close to 20 goals.
Yeah,
this
but
season.
that's last season, not this season. Okay,
Well,
but okay,
yeah.
okay. So, yeah, great. Let me give my rating now.
All right. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna rate him as an 82. He is an above average forward. I think he hasn't performed up to expectations, but he's been pretty good. He's been okay. He's been a little streaky. Like he'll go on big streaks and then stay invisible. And I like inconsistency. Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank
Can't
you
give
for
my full
respecting the
explanation.
rules, Jordan. Jacob,
I
you
think
should
you
try it
guys-
sometime.
I think you guys are both majorly underrating Nikita Gusev. I'm putting him as an 84 overall because that is where 44 points in 66 games gets you in your first season in North America, because the rules here and the ice is different than in Europe, and he did not have the best.
Your
start to
time is over.
Your
the,
time
he didn't have
is
the best start to
over.
the year.
Hey,
And that's because he was just
Jacob,
after that.
you
Jacob,
can't talk
Jacob.
anymore.
Jacob, you have to stick to the rules, my friend. You have better
Go
points
talk.
than me and Jordan combined, but you have to stick to the rules.
Okay, but yeah, I don't like inconsistency in a player, but let's move on.
He was not inconsistent, but yeah, let's move on. Next player, Ryan's going to like this one, so we'll let him start. Kyle Palmieri.
I'm going to start. I love Kyle Palmieri, and that's why I'm going to give him a 92. And I know you guys are going to laugh. But he's just the most underrated player I've ever seen. He deserves to be up there on the banner, like Sidney Crosby will one day be,
No.
and Connor McDavid will one day be. He is a legend in the making and deserves the Hart Trophy.
Can I tell you
And
something,
while
Ryan?
I agree, Ryan, and he will one day be the future
counter arguments.
Well, I agree, Ryan, I'm not counter arguing.
Oh, you're arguing in my favor. Go ahead.
Yes. So while I agree with Ryan that he eventually he's going to be captain of the Devils, I'm going to have to rate him as an 86. And he's our top offenseman, and he's really good, and he's a model of good offensive production, and he's the reason why our offense isn't in the drain.
Agreed.
Anyway, I'm going to agree with Jordan. I'm going to give Kyle Palmieri a 86 overall. He's a consistent.
An 86? That's criminal. I'm sorry, but I also have to break the rules. He is at least a 90.
He's a consistent.
Ryan,
He's a consistent
are you kidding
25 to 30 goal scorer and a 45 or 45, 50, 55 point scorer. And you know what? The teams need that. And I think if he was playing with a better playmaker, then he would score much more.
Okay, guys, this is usually the point where we wrap up our video. Unfortunately, I lost the footage, but it is what it is. So I will wrap it up for us. On behalf of me, Jordan, and Jacob, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow us on Instagram or as well on our other social media platform, Twitter. And you can also feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this video. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. So please feel free to comment on this video. It is a free country. And what is a free country without democracy? And what is democracy without your own opinion? So let us know what your opinion is about what you think about the Devils, whether it is a counter argument or not. We'd love to hear it. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next Tuesday or Wednesday on this series of the Puck Drop Quarantine specials.